Applying to college is marketing. You're not being evaluated as a student, you're being positioned as a product. The question isn't, are you smart? It's, can we sell your story? What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So this all has to do with the concept of storytelling. So I'm going to invite you to come on a journey with me in the sense that imagine that we're going to your favorite to our favorite supermarket, right? We're going to go to Whole Foods. I love to eat sweets. I love to eat chocolate. So imagine that we're looking for the perfect chocolate chip cookies. And this is all about branding and in a way also portfolio where we're thinking, okay, what is a right fit for me? So are we talking about clean ingredients? Is a package appealing? Maybe it's dark purple. Maybe it's like an appealing color. And even that package will say like what the values of the student are, all of these little things. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, specifically for this quote, as real as it is, it's not really pretty to say that you are a product, right? You're still a student, you're still a person.
You're a human.
But in reality, that's kind of what it is. And that's why it's kind of like brutal to say it, but it's true. And that's one of the misconceptions that a lot of people get, especially parents, where they think it's kind of like the same thing as it was a couple of years ago, but no, like nowadays the admissions process is completely different. Like, as you probably know, with the tons of students that you help every single year, like it's really competitive. There are tons of applications, and standing out is pretty tough. It's basically just marketing and being a product. So apart from this, what are other misconceptions that you think a lot of parents get wrong about college admissions?
Okay, so yesterday I had a parent that I've been working with a student regarding her essay, and the parent was like, "Oh, well, I remember when I applied back in the day, or I read about this when my older daughter was applying." So a lot of parents think that this is kind of like a cover letter. Like the Common App essay is like a cover letter, and that you need to say like why you want to study your major and what your major is. On your Common App essay, you don't need to say what your major is. You could if it's relevant, but you don't necessarily have to.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's completely different.
Absolutely.
Probably, you've been talking with parents a lot as well, and they expect it to be completely different, kind of like a LinkedIn post. And I see a lot of people trying to be like thought
Exactly. Yeah.
leaders or making LinkedIn
Yeah.
posts. Doesn't really work. And that's why also you've probably seen it a lot, but parents really overwhelm their kids, right? You've probably seen this like quite a lot, like with informations, Instagram reels, right? YouTube videos, ton of stuff. Like this YouTube video probably will be pretty good for parents to send, but in general, like, they really overwhelm their kids. And as you said, like for their older kid, it was like this. That's like typical things they say. So for my older kid, I did this. And when I was applying to college, I did this other thing.
And it's
So
become totally outdated. Absolutely. Like I always work with families. I even have students that are 2 years apart and the strategy has totally changed. Yes.
yeah, so how has the strategy changed?
Okay. So how has it changed? It's like you said, it's very competitive. We are, if we were to if we were to relay ourselves as if we were like social media, it's not LinkedIn. We're more like the TikTok, Instagram type of generation where we have to be more creative. So how has it changed? We're not here to sell ourselves in the sense that it's not like a LinkedIn post that it's like, oh, I have a strong work ethic. I'm a hard worker. I'm resilient. I'm accountable. We don't need those types of words. We really need to be authentic. And it's like providing a window into who we are. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people have problem with the authenticity because they don't really know how to be authentic, especially like nowadays, pretty tough. And you have to portray an image, or you feel like you are not enough, and because of that, you invent all this stuff about yourself. You create like a fake persona for your application. Doesn't really work. And since the process is really different, as you said, like I think that's like half of the battle with college admissions is just finding out how to be authentic.
Yes, you really need to show what your true self is. And sometimes what I notice with parents, it's like they might be like, well, I have raised my children a certain way, but then it's actually asking the student like, okay, but wait, what are your actual values? What do you really care about? And having that sense of authenticity, and it really is going to stand out in an essay, in a supplement, in the list of activities, all of that. Yeah.
Hmm. Do colleges still care about well-rounded students, or do you have to be more focused?
I think no. Okay, so if you would have asked me this question 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I would have said absolutely. Um, yes, in a way, you have to be well-rounded. You don't just want to be like, just have one tunnel of being like, oh, I want to be a doctor, so I've done internships and only this. Like, you want to show that you are passionate about other things because I'm really into like psychology as well, and it's like, okay, when we're talking about like the whole brain child, like a person really needs to develop themselves. You are not your job, you are not your favorite hobby. You have different things in your life, just like you are a parent, you are a mother, you are an employee, you're a leader, etc. So with that, yes, you can be well rounded, but not like before. There's always like this saying that it's like you're so well rounded, you're just gonna roll off. Like you also need to have like that. So it's kind of like a circle, but with like certain spikes in between, because that's what counts out. So you're never gonna roll off.
Mm. Yeah, because also like connecting that to authenticity, what I've been thinking a lot and what I don't really know how to frame properly is the fact that yes, you need to be authentic and talk about the things that you actually like in real life apart from your major, but also you don't have to be well-rounded. So how do you create a spike and also connect it and be able to talk about the rest of your stuff? And I think the analogy of the rugged ball or the
Yeah.
spiky ball really works, but I never really heard it that.
You're gonna end up like a foot, like you have standing wherever you are. You're not just rolling with the flow. Like you're like, okay, look here, I'm here, I have this. So that's a way that a student needs to, not just going back to like the marketing perspective of like, what are you selling? What are you trying to show? Is it like really low sugar chocolate chip cookies or chewable, chewy, delicious, or whatever it is? But also like you're gonna have specific aspects. Like just like this label of the chocolate chip cookies, it's not going to check off everybody's list. Maybe I want something super sweet. Maybe I want them chewy, and maybe you want them more like with salt on top, right? Same thing with the well-rounded component. Not every student will be a varsity soccer player and the president of NHS and DECA and host and blah, 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 and all of these things. Everybody has their own spice to it.
Yeah, I think though that you need to be respectable. You can't be like that one candy that's sitting in the shelf that everyone knows it's extremely bad and no one buys it. You can't be that specific one. You have to be like respectable. Maybe, someone may not like it, but there's a really big fan out there of that specific candy. I actually think personally that that's a really good analogy for, understanding specifically how to frame yourself.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, okay, so I really like the chewable chocolate chip cookies, but I also like the flat ones that are like more like crunchy type of approach. And if somebody markets it, if I go to Whole Foods and maybe there's this new type of chocolate chip cookie, I might be like, okay, if you sell it correctly to me, I might consider it. Maybe it might be like the super mushy Levain style cookie. If you really sell it correctly, I may consider buying it. Same thing with the essay. Maybe that student is not the perfect fit. Maybe there's something there. Maybe it's a grade. Maybe it's a SAT if it's sent or something. But we're like, hey, you know what? I think this has potential. So that's why we should give it a try.
Great. So what are some mistakes that you see early high schoolers make that actually hurt them later for their application?
Okay, so I was just sitting down with a student and we were going over the resume. I noticed that ninth and 10th was very exploratory. Like, oh, I was part of this club, but I only did it in ninth grade, or I only did this in ninth and 10th grade, or I dropped out. I understand these things happen but I would kind of like leave it more towards like the beginning of ninth grade, but don't let your errors linger towards 10th grade, because then it's always going to be like, oh, you were part of this club in ninth and 10th grade. What happened that you didn't join in 11th grade? So that's a big mistake, that we don't have that consistency and continuity.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So in case a student wants to get into the Ivy League, how should their strategy look like? Is it that consistency that you're talking about?
Yes, it's that consistency and it's that long-term dedication. So if this, and I totally understand. Maybe you want to try volleyball or whatever society, great. But whatever you want to relate to the college, you really have to like stick to it. Whatever you're going to like, let's say that you tried something out, perfect. Okay, that's not something that we would add on the Common App activities. But if you want to go into an Ivy League, you really have to have like a good set of activities where you're invested in it long term.
And how do you make sure that you want to invest on this long term? Like, I think when I was in ninth grade,
Mhm.
14, 15 years old, I didn't have a clue on what I wanted to do. I just played video games all day.
I
And
know.
well,
Yeah.
if I wanted to apply to college and I wanted to take it serious, maybe I choose like one or two serious things to do. But how do I know that in a couple of years I want to do the same thing?
So okay, so that's a really, really good question. What I would really do is take risks. Like if you see a club at your school or there is a new sport that you want to try out, fencing, whatever it is, and you want to give it a try, go ahead and take that risk. If you don't like it, no problem. Nobody here is forcing you to stay for 4 years because that would be torture. But at the same time, take risks. Maybe you'll find something that you really, really like. And that's going back to like that well-roundedness with the spikes that you want to have like that little angle that you're like, oh, actually, you know what? I started to fence and I really like it. And I've been holding on to it for a while. So trying new things.
And so taking risk and trying new things, and eventually, if you like something, maybe sticking to it.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't like it, it's totally fine. It's like the chocolate chip cookie. Try it out, take a bite. If you don't like it, you don't have to eat the whole thing. Just
Right.
move on. Yes.
Perfect. Yeah. So would you say you need to start in ninth grade to make the most out of your application? How early should you start actually preparing?
Okay. So I always say the earlier the better because that's a good way to like look at the activities, make sure that you're all aligned. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to start in ninth grade. Um, you know, many times, like also like as a parent, I'm always thinking like, let's start early because this is always going to be beneficial. So the earlier the better, but that doesn't mean that if a student is in 10th grade, we're too late. It's not like that either. I've had so many success stories where they start later and it's fine too.
Yeah. I mean, those are like some cases those are some cases of things that happen, right?
Yeah.
But if you want to maximize your application, you need to start
Yes,
earlier. But are you saying like maybe even middle school? Maybe like starting middle school?
and I'm even noticing a trend. I've had so many like strategy session calls lately where they're middle schoolers because just like you were saying, you were playing video games in ninth grade. I was rollerblading and having fun in ninth grade too. Like I didn't really think of college until later on, but now things are going earlier and earlier. Like even look at the summers. Students are going to college in as rising seniors, rising juniors, and so on and so forth. My daughter last year, she wanted to go and she went to sleepaway camp at the age of 8. Typically, back in the day, it was more like 12. So you see how things are kind of like moving along. So if you start in middle school, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like preparing and trying things out early when they don't count yet.
They don't really
I
matter.
remember in school, yeah, when I was in middle school, like we were used to say with my friends, like my grades don't matter. They don't affect my GPA yet. Let's just all get the lowest score possible just because, like kind of like that, but
Exactly.
more
Yeah.
responsibly.
Correct. You have more of a luxury to fail if you're younger than if you're closer to applying. Absolutely. Yeah.
And as for, if you're going to try a bunch of stuff, it still takes time and you have a limited amount of things that you can actually try. So what extracurriculars are actually worth it, even if it's not like really early, even later? Like what extracurriculars are worth it and which ones are a waste of time?
Okay, so waste of time is depending on your location. So if you are in Florida and you're doing a beach cleanup, I'm all for the environment. By all means do that, but don't include that on your resume or on your comment app because everybody does that and that looks too basic. Like, oh, I went on a Saturday on a beach cleanup. No, sorry. No, no, no. But yes, but please continue to help the environment by all means. So that doesn't really work because it doesn't really say much about who you are and you're just going with the flow of what your school is offering. What really works is something that's career related. So what that means is if you want to be part of HOSA or DECA, or you want to be part of like a pre-law type of team because you want to be like things like that, things that are part of your major, like you want to show that you've gotten your feet wet before you're saying, I want to be a blank, whatever it is, right? So being part of a club, doing an internship, that also really is really, really good. But at the same time, don't do an internship for one day because then you're just like shadowing a person that's not really helping. But so it should be worthwhile. It doesn't have to be 8 weeks either, but something that's balanced. And there's not really a perfect number because it can really vary by industry or whatever the student is doing. So career related is useful, but then also another thing that really works as well is just like thinking about things that fulfill you, that show you who you are as a person. I've had people that maybe they're passionate about like helping animals, and then they're doing things that have to do with like, okay, maybe they're in a shelter, but that they also have a passion project. Like they're doing things because they really like it, and it's part of their trajectory.
So, how can parents support their kids without being overbearing or overwhelming? As I said earlier, like how can they actually support their kids on the process?
Okay, so I'm going to give you like a totally unconventional answer. Maybe it's not what you want to hear, but today I spoke to a parent and I loved what they said. And I said, okay, I'm going to copy this because I loved it. And the parent said, I just want my child to be a mensch. And a mensch is like somebody that has like good, strong values. And I think that's what really will go far in life. That you're offering the child a safe home, a place open for communication. That if the student wants to talk and say, oh, you know what, I want to try out tennis. Okay, yes, I support you. Let's try this out, or talking things over. And maybe also leaving it to professionals as well. I've had parents that they say, okay, I'm done sending text messages to my child. Or a lot of parents have like a group chat about like, okay, yes, this is what I heard from this, or this is what your school sent. And they were totally overwhelming the child. So sometimes it's like backing off when the child needs help. You know, they know they're there, but not just like being too micromanagers.
Mm. I actually didn't expect that answer. It's like
Yeah.
you said, it's not like sexy at all, but I actually think it's a pretty good answer. And it's completely opposite to what most people think. Like instead of pushing things towards your kids, more like pulling away. That's what you should be doing and letting them seek you for help. And that's
Absolutely.
so interesting now that you say that and put it into words, because I've always had a supportive family, and this is coming like from the student that applied to college a couple of years ago. Like I remember my mom didn't send many stuff. My granddad did. He every single thing he saw on Facebook, he sent to me, all the college stuff, and I almost blocked him. Like I couldn't take it anymore, and it was
It
pretty
can be
tough.
overwhelming. Yeah. Imagine if you're
Yeah,
applying to college and you receive an article from a family member that says colleges are being even more competitive every day. Here's what to do. And you're just like, am I really doing
yeah.
this? So sometimes it's like anything you need, I'm here for you, but I'm not going to overwhelm you either. Because
Yeah, yeah. It's insane, like the difference it makes. Like comparing my granddad, and no, like no hate to him, I love him, but this is exactly like what happened. And comparing that situation to, for example, my mom, which was always there, and I always talked to her every single day about my struggles, about what I wanted to do, ask her for feedback. That was great, right? You could really tell the difference. I think like what you're saying really makes sense. I love that.
now I have to remember to do that with my kids too. Like just
Yeah, well, it is what it is. But for example, another big part of and I think it's probably the biggest part that parents play into the admissions process and the college process itself is funding. And the price of college is extremely expensive. It keeps getting even more expensive for hundreds of thousands of dollars every single year. Like it's crazy, right? So how would you recommend parents go around this process, how to save properly, how to find opportunities, how to make their kids go to college for less?
Okay, I think that's such an important question, especially in the United States where college can get so expensive. So, first, knowledge is power. So, there are so many, and especially with the use of AI, it can be very strategic to be like, okay, what are my options? So, looking at what options you have. So, for example, there's a program called QuestBridge in the United States that if you meet certain requirements, that's a wonderful way to basically receive amazing funding. So that's something that's very important. So being knowledgeable, receiving, so continue to follow us, and we'd love to like continue to share this information, these types of tips and bits. Then also understand the differences between merit-based, which is like based on the student's GPA, SAT, like overall, scholarship consideration, and then financial aid. So like the whole financial aid component, and then understand maybe there are some colleges where they might give you a full ride, or they might give you 40% or whatever it is. And then in terms of saving, I always recommend starting as young as possible, just like when we said like when should students begin. and then just working really hard, because I believe that education is the best investment, as cliche as it sounds. Like, we can't really put a price to it. And then at the same time, I understand it can get so expensive, but there are always ways of doing this. I just had a student that got into, well, he's going into Northeastern next month, and what he's paying is amazing, and it's all like scholarship. So it's also like applying to so many different types of colleges that you could say, oh, look, I got this for this one, this for that. And you can always negotiate with colleges too.
Hmm. So your biggest advice, in case it's already too late, maybe, you know, they're applying next year, this year, or whatever, and you want to save as much as possible, you weren't prepared for, you know, how costly it's going to be. So what your biggest advice would be applying for as many opportunities as you can, scholarships, colleges, something like
Yes.
that?
Yeah. And something will, like, if you apply to a college that does offer financial aid, it does offer merit-based aid, and the student really has, like, really stands out, they can get something. And then with that, like, trying to like get more options as much as possible.
So you've helped hundreds of students get into their dream schools. What would you say the best have in common?
The best have in common is passion, that we really have something where the student really showcases that it's like having something memorable, that after the college admissions counselors, after they read that, they like, it's something that really stuck to them, that they're like, wow, I remember that the student did X, Y, and Z. So impact, that type of change maker in the world, that makes you remember it. Remember, you know how many times they say, like, it's not really what you read about or learn about, but it's also how things make you feel. So after reading an essay or reading a whole application, if it makes you feel like that sense of like, wow, okay, cool, or an R or whatever, that's what matters.
And that's on the application itself. And as for quality traits, probably they also have things in common, right? So as for traits and mindset, what do they have in common?
So I notice a trend nowadays is that there's a lot of discipline for students. Like, most of my students nowadays, like, they're waking up super early, they're working out, etc. So having that accountability, like not missing out on school that much, going to their activities, like being pretty responsible, and at the same time having that extra space for them to have balance in their lives.
Okay, perfect. And what's one thing every parent can do to help their kid become a stronger applicant? Even if they're not in senior year yet and they're applying in a couple of years, what can they do to help?
One thing is, I would say, is support. Everything starts with a smile and pausing. So what I mean by that is support, that your child will know you're there for them no matter what. That if your child will tell you, hey, I'm thinking of being a doctor, okay, embrace it. Oh, okay, this would be great. What kind of doctor? Hey, I'm thinking of studying political science. Great, what would you like to do with that? Things like that. No judgment. Not like, really, with those grades, or really, what are you going to do with that? Or you're not going to make
Classic.
money. Like, no judgment.
Classic stuff.
And then that presence, like, okay, I'm here for you no matter what. You want me to drive you here? You want to talk about, like, that type of presence is important.
Well, with you saying this, if for whatever parent is watching this video right now, your kid's gonna be really grateful. Like, if it were me and my parent was watching this video and truly applied this, like, for me, it would be awesome applying to college. So that's great. So Annabella, thank you for coming on here. I want to leave with one last question that you can leave parents on, and I think that's gonna be great, and that last feedback that you can give. So, if you had one message for every parent of a high schooler right now, what would it be?
Give love. So I think everybody starts with that. So whether your child is going to college and maybe you're stressed out about it, that you're like, wow, okay, I'm going to become an empty nester, or they're leaving in next year, or whatever it is, leading with love really, really helps, because that type of support, imagine looking back, that your child is graduating from college and looking back, that goes back to the sense of feeling. I remember when my mom or dad or parent or guardian was there for me when I went through this process, or when I told them that I wanted to study this, or when I told them that I want to go into fencing, for example. Just being supportive, not being judgmental, and being like, hey, yeah, let's go for it. Yeah.
Great.
And it's a ride, so good luck.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, but well.
Yes. But this too shall pass. I have many students that they always reach out to me, and even their parents, and then it only gets better. So as parents, Yeah. So as parents, I remember that I had a friend when I had a newborn with my first son, and they told me it only gets better because it's like, the sleepless nights, everything. Same thing with teenagers. It only gets better.
Hmm. And I imagine, I'm not a parent yet, but I imagine you only remember the good parts and the painful parts just go away with time, and eventually, it just gets better.
Yeah,
For sure.
absolutely.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Have a lovely day.
If this conversation resonated with you and your child is applying to college soon, don't try to figure this out alone. Annabella and I work together to guide families through this process, and we offer free one-on-one strategy calls with you and your child to work through your goals and create a game plan that actually works. We actually do this because we want to earn your trust and show you how we work. No pressure, just value. You can book your call using the link in the description or the pinned comment. We'd love to meet you.